Welcome back to Wargamer Shut Up and Jam Guide, and I'm Steve, and
I'm Mike. Hey, he let me actually introduce myself this time.
There we go. And this is going to be episode 4, so week 4 of our new format. For those of you that don't know, you can catch us on YouTube, obviously, Monday through Thursday. Friday, we release the whole episode on both YouTube and soundcloud.com/WSUJ Guide. And if you're one of those podcast folks and just wants to listen to us while you paint away or whatever. So today we're going to talk...
I mean, I'm not saying people will be commonly doing that, but you can't rule it out. Someone might just be so enthralled by the dulcet tones of our voices and like turned on by War Machine talk. Fair.
Well, the thing is, we've had actual requests for, can I get in podcast? Because I'm not going to watch the video. We don't always have access to YouTube, that kind of thing. So yeah, we did.
Yeah.
There we go.
No, that's fair.
Listen to the community doing the stuff.
It's a thing. We're doing the thing.
So, we had not a lot of information this week overall, at least not comparatively speaking to previous weeks, but we've got the insider on the second, today's the 3rd. Insider from yesterday was talking all about Legion and some of the changes. So much like last week where they spoiled Crix, this week they spoiled some stuff in Legion, and we wanted to go into that because obviously, if you guys are familiar with the channel at all, I'm known as the Legion player here. And
also it's a terrible person.
Also a terrible person. But I don't know. The Legion stuff matters a lot to me, even though I'm finding myself more interested in other factions right now. Legion still has that place of gribbly goodness. So one of the very first change that they mentioned is that not just across Legion, but across all factions, they're going to be toning down Fury management mechanics.
Yeah.
And they still want Legion to be the faction that's best able to run beasts. But they've decided to bust out the Nerf bat and go to town. Shepherds are kind of the first example of this, where they now can only remove 1 Fury per condition action. There we go.
Yeah.
And rather than as much Fury as you want. But they can do that multiple times based on you having multiple Shepherds. They can affect the same target multiple times, both with the Medicate or the condition action.
Yeah. So this is a change to the Medicate and condition actions, I suspect, that isn't limited to just Legion. It's just Legion was the most frequent user with Shepherds. Like Druid Wilders also have condition, not Medicate. And I know that there's some Scorn models that have either or both.
Okay.
I think actually the Paingiver Beast Handlers have both condition and Medicate. You just never see them used because Enrage is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But now, with the way this works now, you can use condition on the same War Beast as many times as you want, and same is true of Medicate.
Okay.
So in the case of Legion, you can have your 3 Shepherds running around, all draining 1 Fury point from a Beast, or all healing 1 Beast up, if that happens to be the best.
I mean, I think there's 2 interesting things I think about this. First off, I mean, well, it does kind of suck to lose, the huge amount of Fury manipulations, but...
Well, sure.
On the other hand, being able to medicate multiple times per turn on the same War Beast is pretty sick. Now we have greater access to healing, which is nice. So that's pretty cool. But also, now that they are toned down a little bit, the next model that they mentioned is the Forsaken. And the Forsaken basically works exactly how it worked previously.
Yeah, well, as far as its Fury management.
Yeah, so it can take as many Fury points as you want. You just have to use them later on. So now we're at this interesting position where we actually can look at the Forsaken as a viable Fury management tool over the Shepherds in some cases. Right.
They're different sort of styles. Like the Shepherds help you manage Fury over the course of a few turns. The Forsaken can be like a burst Fury management tool sort of thing. Like, so you might have a situation where, you're running up a few heavies over the first couple of turns and your Shepherds just follow behind them and take that Fury off.
Well, exactly. And now you might have an actual reason to run both. I mean, because before you'd see Forsaken and stuff like Absolonia's tier list, but you wouldn't see them in a lot of other places. Because why spend 2 points for the Fury management tool when you could spend half that? See,
my experience is totally different because you always play Forsaken.
Well, that's because I played Absolonia a lot.
I know, but
and Forsaken are cool. Okay,
yeah, I suppose
they're just rad, wicked, awesome. Yeah. So the Shepherds are different. I mean, you can run 3 now instead of 2, but I mean you still don't have the Fury management.
No.
potential anywhere near.
Although the interesting thing about running, being able to run 3 is they still have Beast Handler, so they still let you force even outside of your Warlock's control area, meaning that having 3 of them allows you to cover basically the whole board between the 3 of them and your caster, regardless of who the caster is.
Yeah, I think if you're playing against Legion and somebody's running Shepherds, you still want to target those Shepherds. Like, I don't think you ever want to leave them just wandering around doing their own thing.
Probably. I mean, and presumably they'll still be pretty easy to kill.
Probably.
So.
I have to imagine. I mean, and they're probably... Maybe they're 2 points now. Maybe they're 3.
No, they're 1.
Are they still 1?
I'm pretty sure that they mentioned explicitly their
FA3 PC 1
point cost.
Point cost. Wow. All right. So they're incredibly cheap. Even I mean, I guess they're
not. I mean, they made them worse, so it doesn't make any sense to make them cost more.
Well, with the point scaling, I mean, it's kind of hard to say, right? So I kind of expected them to stay at roughly the same, like 2 points was my guess, but like now they're. Effectively half the cost as they were before.
Sure. But they're like less than a third as good in a lot of cases.
I mean, it depends on how you're using it, but yeah, fair enough. That's super. I don't know. I mean, I think I need a 3rd Shepherd now. I mean, I've only got 2 that are painted up, and I never needed more than that. And now I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe a 3rd one would be wise to have in the collection.
I would assume that owning 3 Shepherds would be a nice idea.
Yeah, although on the other hand, running Shepherds and Forsaken could mitigate that as well. I don't know.
I mean, you could do all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
3 Shepherds, 2 Forsaken. Let's do it.
Well, who says Forsaken will be FA1 or FA2?
That's correct. I mean, I'm just going by their old value.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty interesting. I was a little upset about the 1 Fury thing because it's not what I'm used to, but
risk management needs risk to manage.
But I think that with getting the extra one and them being cheaper, I think that they're still perfectly viable.
I think they're going to be useful regardless. I think you'll actually have to care about Fury management.
Yeah, see, here's the thing though. Yes, I think that you're supposed to care about Fury management. However, the way I typically played anyway was we go in for the Alpha Strike turn and we don't care about the next turns.
Well, sure, and that's fine, but now you'll have less of this, like, I'm going to take 3 Ravagors, and then my Shepherds will run a Ravagor each.
That's true.
By themselves, basically. It doesn't matter if they're in your caster's control area. Doesn't matter if they can be leeched from or forced, because your Shepherd's just right there like, nope.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I would still run like, hey, now I can run 7 Scythians. Go!
I mean, sure, but what I'm saying is, like, I think that your playstyle going more for the Alpha Strike, totally fine. That's something that they're fine with.
But now I'll get punished for it if it doesn't work out.
Well, yeah.
Whereas before you're just like, by the way, we're fine. It doesn't actually matter anymore. No, I mean, and that makes a lot of sense. They needed to punish players like me.
I'm just kind of worried if like Legion is still the best at Fury management and all they've got is like 3 Shepherds and a Forsaken or 2. Like what other factions are going to have.
Oh yeah, I think they're going to get totally hosed.
I mean, Whelps might actually be a good thing for trolls now. So maybe the Mountain King shedding Whelps is a much bigger deal.
But I think Whelps might be the only thing they have.
Sure, but then Whelps are even bigger. So the Mountain King shedding them is an even bigger deal. Also, like I'm curious to see what Shifting Stones do for Fury management, if any.
That's a good point. I mean, before they were basically for Shepherds, were they not?
Mm-hmm.
Before, like in Mark II.
In Shifting Stones?
Yeah.
They did have Fury management, and it was passive.
But they could strip like all of the Fury.
No, it was just one.
Oh,
just
really?
1 point, yeah.
I bet you they're going to lose it.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
So there's that. Another big change to Legion as a whole is Eyeless Sight now no longer sees through forests.
This actually affects other factions as well as Legion, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
No.
Just throwing that out there.
Also, in addition, though, they can no longer be blinded.
Yeah.
So
it's a nice little punch and then punch pat.
Yeah.
Like because it was really, 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 really frustrating playing against Legion as Circle specifically because fuck you. It's nice that Eyeless Sight isn't just I ignore everything on the table now.
Yeah, that's true.
And it is cool. Like it thematically makes sense that you can't be blinded if you've got Eyeless Sight, and it's actually a relevant rule.
I agree that it thematically makes sense that you can't be blinded, but the question, I mean, to me, it doesn't make so. It makes sense mechanics wise, game wise, that you can't see through force because really you needed some kind of defense. It's a little stupid otherwise.
Okay.
But thematically, It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Sure it does. Why? Okay, what do you conceptualize eyeless sight as? Like, it's you see without seeing. So what? How are you telling that something's there?
I always assumed it was kind of like an infrared vision.
Okay, so what is a good insulator?
No, but the thing is, like, if you have like a forest of things, you've got somebody running through the forest, you can actually get a heat signature.
You still ignore concealment. So if somebody's in the forest, you still see them without a penalty. It's just if they're on the other side of the forest, you can't see them. So it's like there's a big chunk of fucking wood and trees there. Wood is a good insulator. It's gonna block off a lot of sound too. It makes perfect thematic sense that you can't see all the way through the forest.
That's actually way less of a big deal than the way I thought it worked. Like,
yeah,
I thought that you still got concealment from the forest.
No.
I thought that basically forests were just immune to eyeless sight for some reason.
If I'm understanding it correctly, anyway, you still ignore concealment and cover. Or sorry, you still ignore concealment, stealth, and cloud effects. You don't ignore cover because you never ignored cover.
Yeah.
But the way I understand it is now, even though you don't get the concealment bonus if you're in the forest, you still can't see all the way through the forest. Because that's fucking ridiculous.
Okay, well, and that's okay. I mean, like, and that's way less of a nerf than I thought it was.
Yes, it's also interesting that like it gives things like Tree Walker, like assuming the Tree Walker rule is still a thing, it gives things like Tree Walker and like Mage Sight more importance because more uniqueness too, because no longer are they just like this is eyeless sight, but so like Hunter, Tree Walker being able to see through forest is actually a big deal now. Thorn Ravagers might actually be good against Legion. Fuck you.
Maybe.
Actually, Thorn Ravagers might just be good in general. So
one of the things that they wanted to do with Legion is they wanted to readdress, and I have to imagine they're doing this for all the warcasters and all of the factions, but they wanted to readdress the roles of everybody. So the examples that they have are Bethane and Lilith. They wanted to be tweaked to be different functionally than they are currently.
In a more broad sense, they wanted to make it so that not every Legion caster is either terrible or a beast caster.
Yeah.
So they made like Thagrosh, Absalonia, and I believe Saren are your like go-to beast casters. Whereas everyone else is going to do something maybe different now. So like they give Bethane and Lilith examples as like combined arms, more like infantry supporting.
Well, so Bethane is actually supposed to be the true combined arms master now.
Because she combines arms with Belphegor?
I guess...
Because she combines arms with Belphegor? Because they meld?
I keep wishing it, but he's not going to burst into flames. The only thing that we have as far as Bethane's information goes is effectively her feat. So now her feat reads that when she's in, while within her control area, friendly faction warrior models gain flank with friendly faction war beast. It's called Symbiosis, and it lasts for 1 round. And flank is pretty much the same. So when a model with flank makes a melee attack and is within melee range of a friendly faction war beast, they get +2 attack and an additional die on damage
against an enemy model that's engaged with a war beast.
Yeah, sorry. I mean the wording makes more sense on the actual ability.
Sure,
I'm saying, but
yeah. I was just confirming because I for all I knew they might have actually changed that. I was just
fair enough
making sure.
So that's interesting. I mean, before I don't remember exactly what her feat was, but it had to do with giving boosted magical
something like that. It was like, oh yeah, that's whatever, cool.
And it was largely one of the reasons why nobody ever took her.
Like in fairness, Bethane is like such a cool fucking concept.
Yeah,
like I'm Warlock, and then I've got my like personal war beast who I fucking pilot like a mech suit sometimes. But then her kit, her spells and her feat were just so weird and sort of off the wall that it wasn't a cohesive unit.
Well, exactly. And it's like you have this really cool core concept that just didn't really pan out. It wasn't really good at anything necessarily. That's not entirely true. Like some people have piloted Bethane.
Sure. I mean, like I'm not even saying she was bad necessarily. It was just weird. Like and then there wasn't a cohesive theme.
And so now they've kind of addressed that in a major way. And I think that I think she's going to be one of the go-to casters for the faction now, simply because no, hear me out. Simply because there is going to be greater instances of infantry. Like you're going to have a lot more infantry run in most lists, and she just naturally fits into running beast and infantry. It's just fine.
She fits into running melee infantry. She does nothing for ranged infantry, or I
guess that's true.
I mean, she does she has a limited effect on like defensive melee infantry, like legionnaires. But like, so I think it was funny that you said like based on literally just the feat that she's going to be one of the go-to casters for Legion. Shut the fuck up.
I think so.
Shut the fuck no, because you cannot say that based on the feat alone and knowing nothing about any other caster.
But we do know that she's geared to being the combined arms faction. I think that they've geared Legion to be more of a combined arms faction.
They're gearing every faction to be more of a combined arms faction than they are. But that doesn't mean that you can't play the faction Beast heavy.
No, I think that Absalonia, for example, is going to be madly awesome at running Beast if you want to run Beast heavy.
Or even like Callus might still be like a really infantry heavy caster.
He probably will be. So like I think it's hilarious that you'd make a snap judgment on you heard it here, folks. Bethane go-to caster for
Okay, so
combined arms.
No, let's do something for this. Let's make a bet.
Okay.
So first, how do we define like go-to caster? Like, do we look at like tournament results? Like, how do we define whether she is or is not a go-to caster for the faction?
I think if she's played more than she's played now, she's
okay. Then you literally can't lose that because they're making her better than she is now.
That sounds like a great bet.
Yeah, no, that's no. Fine. What I was trying to have fun, but you're like, oh, I'm just gonna.
All right then. So moving on, Lilith, P. Lilith, as it were, is becoming more. She's been rounded out to be more of an infantry-centric caster. I believe it's. Is it?
No, this is.
Is it Elo?
Shadow is Lilith too, I think.
You might be right.
Yeah, no, because they're talking about changing the feat from granting snipe, which is
Then it must be. It must be
It's Lilith 2.
So the thing is, like Lilith 2 right now, or at least in Mark 2, is already good at. You'd run like Ravagors, and you'd freaking AOE pie plate the whole world.
You would run Ravagors with her, in that she would maybe run one, and then you'd have two shepherds running two others because they can.
Well, I mean, it didn't really matter, to be honest. But anyway. Now she's going to her feat's changed.
Still grants an extra ranged attack, but now it affects all friendly faction models instead of just your battle group.
That's right. They lose snipe, but they also gain gunfighter.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because for things like the war spears, when they're engaged in melee, now they have a legitimate they benefit from. From the feat as well. Sure.
Yeah, it gives them an extra attack where they wouldn't have had one before.
Or raptors. Raptors is another good example.
Yeah.
I think you made the point previously that it gives them an option to deal with jamming infantry.
Yeah, that's what they actually suggest in here. And if we sort of guess at how like aiming mechanics work, if you can still forfeit your movement to gain an aiming bonus, and or bladed archers still keep their dual shot somehow.
That'd be amazing.
You can get 3 attacks out with them. Your first one goes to the person in your face so that they're dead. And then you can then shoot out at whatever you're going to shoot anyway.
That would be pretty disgusting. And I mean, you would see vastly different lists than you see today.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting. I hope that that's the case. I hope that they do. I hope that archers do keep their second.
I don't see why they wouldn't, because they want to make them more impactful, not less.
That's true.
So.
But it also gives you the potential as Legion to run imagine running a couple of units of those guys. Full units, then on feet turn, you're like, here's 60 shots. Goodbye, Cricks.
Well, I mean, I don't know why you're saying Cricks specifically. Banes aren't ghostly anymore.
Well, because they're going to be primarily the spam infantry faction.
Yeah, but archers still have CRA, so they can they could just pump 3 huge shots into something.
That's true.
Be like, hey, by the way, die.
Yeah, I mean well, okay, if they still have CRA, that'd be something.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm making some assumptions based on them not making the models worse.
Actually, and they go on to talk about blightedness archers, which have been recosted. They've now dropped to a low cost of 8 and 13 points for a full unit.
Really?
To reflect their potential capability. So it says
that's really archers specifically.
Let's see here. In nearly every instance, the point cost of Legion infantry was redressed and in many cases reduced to better reflect their potential capability. Okay. Blightedness archers, for example, dropped to a low cost of 8/13. Blighted Ogren saw a drop in overall cost and picked up tough, although they've dropped from 8 boxes to 5. And Grotesque Raiders have dropped down to 6/12.
Yeah, and they're also speed 7 now.
And they're speed 7.
Yeah, they actually just got quite a bit better as far as I'm aware.
They're pretty much, I mean, otherwise they're pretty much the same as they were previously. They've got flight. I believe that's the flight icon.
Yeah. They've got gang. They've still got gang.
The half-inch melee reach, which makes sense. They only have the 1 claw. I think they had 2 previously. But I'm almost certain they had 2 previously. But
either
still,
way.
But the thing is, like, now they're dirt cheap and they're super fast.
Yeah.
And they're pretty easy to kill.
Yeah, but they're dirt cheap. Like
also, I mean, we know that they have a unit attachment. We know that they.
I think it's a solo, actually.
It might be. Well, yeah, we don't know.
No, I guess we don't know about Mark II, but I mean.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. So I mean, that's the thing. They've
that solo right now gives them stealth,
which was actually really beneficial.
Would be pretty great. I mean, that seems like an interesting like just a dirt cheap unit that's a speed 7 flyer.
Yeah.
Like even just to speed bump like a colossal or something. Well, I guess you really wouldn't be able to speed bump a colossal super easily. Yeah,
you'd be like speed paced.
Well, still, you'd still force it to be addressed.
The big thing to me in that information is the Blighted Ogren dropped in cost and picked up tough. Now they don't say War Spears or Warmongers, so the assumption I'm making is that it's both.
Yeah.
I thought War Spears were already awesome, but the problem is that they overshadowed the Warmongers because you could do almost as much damage with them, and they had a way better threat and could do everything.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but they all picked up tough. Is freaking amazing.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I'm one of the few people I think that really likes the Ogren as a component of the armies. I'm not really a big fan of the Nis because elves. Yeah.
That's like your entire faction.
And I like the crazy mutated blood beasts and the Ogren. But that's the thing. I could never really justify running the Warmongers because they just were kind of expensive for what you'd get out of them. You wouldn't really get much out of them normally.
I mean, they were like a slow heavy infantry unit that has Berserk to blender things, and you like a lot of Hordes factions don't have a lot of problems like dealing with clustered infantry.
Oh, exactly. You're like, well, we could just use breath weapons, or we could just use Scythians.
Blightbringer, or like
exactly. Well, Blightbringer didn't exist at the time, but yeah.
No, sorry. I mean the spell Blightbringer, not the Gargantuan. I mean Saren's spell Blightbringer.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, that's the thing. You had not Parasite. The other one, the one that
Eruption of Spines.
Eruption of Spines. Like you had lots of things that you could do to deal with infantry. So like having to spend like premium points on heavy infantry for it was just why.
Yeah.
Even though like they're cool models, they're I really like the models.
It is important to note that Steve mentioned it already, but they did lose 3 boxes.
They did, so and that is huge. But then picking up Tough, although Tough has been kind of diminished in terms of effectiveness now.
Yeah.
But still, picking that up is huge. I mean, the thing is, like, you're still... I think that you're still going to take as many hits to kill one of those guys, if not more. Because they're going to be high armor, relatively speaking.
Maybe.
Well, probably. They're going to be... They're probably not that hard to hit, but, like, with Tough... I don't think that three boxes matters that much.
Yeah, you're probably right, and also they're cheaper. So
and then being cheaper is like huge.
Yeah,
I'm really stoked for that.
So the interesting thing is like functionally speaking, it means that they're easier to kill for high POW attacks. So like a POW like 50, a POW 50 will kill them easier because it kills them half the time.
No, a POW 50 would kill them. Half the time now, whereas a POW 50 would kill them 100%.
No, a POW 50 would kill them now, like 100% now.
Oh yeah, now.
Yeah, and it would kill them unless they tough in the future.
That's right.
Whereas like 3 POW 21s now they used to be able to kill it guaranteed. Well, statistically guaranteed.
Yeah.
But now the third one will be a tough check.
Yeah.
Or maybe the second.
Maybe the second, depending on what's rolled. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like I think that they're just as tough. I think. Unless you're actually privateer press, it would take some mathing to really understand what that means, like the change.
Yeah, and I mean they're also cheaper anyway. So
well, exactly. Yeah. So I'll definitely be using them because I like the models anyways, and a big part of these games for me is like we like the models, so we want to play with the models that we like.
Pretty true.
Not necessarily just always power gaming them, but I mean tournament wise, maybe they show up. I don't know. I mean,
I would love to see like. Literally every model show up in tournaments in the next year.
That would be super awesome.
That would be... I highly doubt it's going to happen. If it does, I'll be very happy. But if it doesn't, then, I mean...
Yeah. The next thing that they go on to talking about is they've redefined the roles of legionnaires and swordsmen. So legionnaires are more defensive, swordsmen are more offensive, obviously. But they both now cost the same amount of points at 915. So it's interesting in that we know that our archers are cheaper, our raiders are considerably cheaper than even just legionnaires now.
Do you know that they're cheaper than? Oh, you mean grotesque raiders? Yeah.
Sorry. Legionnaires base cost 915 now. That's a huge increase in what they originally costed, because before they were basically like what grotesque raiders were. They were just kind of a speed bump as a basic unit.
Well, I mean, they're still less relative to what they are now in like an increased point system.
15, 7.5.
I'm
is
pretty
that true?
Yeah.
I thought that they were.
Well, because they should be double, roughly. And you have
remember.
like
I thought the base unit cost was like.
I'm pretty sure it was 8 plus 2 for Feral Lore and Standard.
You might be right. No, Feral Lore and Standard was 3.
Okay, so like 20,
I think
so they would be like 22. But that falls in line with what we were expecting, because like Legion's infantry is like traditionally underperformed and underrepresented.
That's true.
So making them cheaper makes sense. And I mean, Legionnaires could have, defensive line. They already have defensive line, I mean, but they could have a lot of things that make them, tankier.
The interesting thing here is it says that swordsmen now stand as the hard-hitting, rapid elite warriors that their background paints them as, whereas before they were just kind of derpy weapon master models.
Did swordsmen have 2 swords? Like, do they dual wield?
Do they do? I don't believe so, but now I'm questioning it. Now the big thing is, so the interesting thing is that they wanted their background, or them to match up with their background a little bit more. The background of these guys is that they were so strong and so skilled with their swords that even in having become soulless Nisk creatures, they still kept their bond with their swords.
Really?
Like, that's how elite they were supposed to be. I mean, obviously the models didn't work out.
Yeah, sure.
But
it'd be interesting to see if they have something like if they do have 2 weapons. It'd be interesting to see if they have sidestep or something, so they can charge in, kill something, sidestep. Or even if they only have the 1 weapon, like Rapid Strike or something like that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what that is, because that was the one unit that I actually really liked when we first started. And then I played with them a bunch, and I'm like, man, I just wish they were a little bit better. Like, when they did something, you always felt good about it, but then the times that they did something was maybe 30% of the time, and you're like, that's just not good return on your freaking infantry unit.
I'm really interested to see what they end up doing with those.
I hope that they get resculpts though.
Oh yeah,
it's
I would hope that 90% of the infantry in Hordes gets resculpts.
The thing is, though, is a lot of them aren't that bad. Like, you look at a lot of the Scorn infantry are pretty nice. A lot of the Troll infantry is pretty nice.
Yeah, but all the Scorn infantry has new models.
But you look at all of the Nis.
Yeah, because they all have shitty old models.
Yeah. So I really hope that they address that. The grotesques I always thought were pretty cool, and they got remade. Yeah, like the grotesques. Of all the units, I thought that the originals were serviceable.
They knew that this was coming.
Well, and they also wanted to do the kit with the Banshees, right? Yeah. So that makes sense. But yeah, anyway, Legion Warbeasts, again, have been retooled. They wanted to be, I think proportionally as strong as the infantry for the points cost. And I think that we're still going to see Legion Warbeasts be that kind of expensive.
Yeah, probably.
Or your average Warbeast plus a couple points.
Maybe.
So if that's the case, then I mean, it wouldn't be surprising to me to see 15, 16 point average Warbeasts.
Yeah, I would say at least. I mean, when you think about Slayer only doubled in points, a little bit less, right? Well, I'm thinking, from 6 to 10.
I mean, we haven't got to it yet, but I'm thinking based off the Proteus's new points. If he's supposed to be a character, he's probably. Although maybe he might just be kind of the average same.
Yeah, well, no, he is less than half his point, less than double his points cost.
But anyway, so they wanted to redefine kind of the Warbeast, because a lot of them, we've had this conversation before, where a lot of the heavies perform really the same role. You could take a Carnivian and you'd get his cool animus, but if you can't afford the points, Scythian's just fine.
Yeah, well, and Scythian's gonna be better in a lot of cases. In
most cases.
Yeah.
Whereas I always like the Carnivian, the model itself.
Yeah, the Carnivian's a really cool, the extreme one, which, I mean, you might have to build and paint up.
Fair enough. So one of the things they say that the Scythian became an absolute infantry murder machine thanks to the murderous ability. Good job, guys. Additionally, which grants it an additional die on attack rolls against warrior models, and it does replace the chain attack Bloodbath with Thresher. So
it's guaranteed to get off that big like circle of doom.
You run him into a bunch of infantry, and that infantry is not walking away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now he gets one less attack against like heavies. So he can't do the same thing as before, where he could just like munch basically anything. Like he was a catch-all. If you want a melee heavy war beast to do everything, he was sent.
I mean, he's more accurate against the bulk of warcasters and warlocks now, though, because they're usually warrior models.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, with
he gets one less attack potentially against them, but he can still actually,
Well, and that's the thing. It's like now we have now he has a purpose, and we know for sure that that armies are going to be incentivized to run more infantry just based on the recosting and
the ones that didn't already run all of the infantry.
Well, and the reduced fury management tools means that like running infantry is a real a way to
absolutely
it, right. So I think that in what will eventually become the new meta, this is a guess. My theory is that the Scythian's always going to be worth taking.
Insert wild speculation here. Woo!
Yeah, whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
And that's going to lead us into the kind of final portion of this.
For the record, I don't think you're really wrong. I think the Scythian will probably generally have a place.
Well, the thing is, I think that you can like against a blind opponent. Like I think you could always take a Scythian and it'll be just fine.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it might not be the best option anymore, but it'll be like workable.
I think you'll always get value out of it.
Yeah, I think so.
Come check out the Connection Games and Comics. We have the largest selection of War Machine and Hordes miniatures in the Lower Mainland. War Machine Wednesdays and Sundays, with tables and terrain to play your game.